Welcome back to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Coming up today, finding inspiration from your four-legged furball, hope for survivors of an abusive childhood. We have proof that staying in shape is key to injury recovery. Just in time for America's 250th birthday, a book of historical fiction set near the Cumberland Gap. Imagine a future after World War III. But first, who better to write a children's book than a woman who owns 2 preschool centers outside Chicago? After 31 years, Ellise Boyd-Johnson finally penned It's Mine, Not Yours. What took you so long, Ellise?
Well, honestly, I started thinking about a way to reach everyone outside of my little 2 centers because I've been actually doing a lot of teaching and coaching with the parents and the people that work for me. But I'm like, okay, let me take this around the world. So that's why I came up with the book.
Around the world?
Absolutely. Actually, I didn't want to do just one book. I wanted to get a message out. So I have been contracted for 10 series. I want 10 books to get the whole message out. Um, I decided that sibling rivalry was a big problem for children that follows them into their adulthood.
Okay.
And I am a child of 5 sisters. And today we are in our 50s and 60s, and we still have trouble getting along. And it is amazing how many times we're together and something comes up from our childhood. Well, you've always been like that. You've been doing that since we were kids. And I'm like, oh my God. So I realized that if because I'm in the field of early childhood, if I could get these things solved while they're still kids, they won't grow up with all of these issues that follow them into their adulthood. And it's important that the parents are seeing this too, because oh my God, we all have different opinions of our parents because we all experience them different. Oh, I was the second to the baby. And so in my world, I got everything I wanted and my parents were perfect.
Right. Right.
But from my older sisters, you were a spoiled brat. Mom always took up for you.
Right.
You was daddy's girl. He always loved you the most. So it's just really something that I feel that parents need to see what they're doing and how it's affecting the kids and their relationship. So my book is a sibling rivalry book that's actually for the whole family.
So we begin with It's Mine, Not Yours.
We did. And then I found myself circling back to before they were even there. So my book that's in production right now with Fulton Books is called The New Baby. So I decided to take it back from those same 2 children's and it's mine, not yours, and go back to when it was just one child, the star player, which is Lucy, the older sister. So Lucy is a 5-year-old girl who has a 2-year-old little brother who gets everything he wants. And she absolutely can't stand it. She feels rejected by her parents, mom. She's like, when are you guys going to see that he's taken everything that's mine? It's not fair. It's a typical problem in a lot of households when you have siblings. It's where the rivalry starts. Um,
What is it that, are they fighting over anything in specific in your story?
it's everything she has, he wants it. She picks up her doll, he wants it. She's eating food and even he can have the same food, but he wants it. So the thing of the matter is, how do parents respond to that? And what they're doing is they're responding wrong. And they're creating something. If they knew the better way to respond to make her understand it, it would create a better relationship from their childhood. So what Lucy learns is that she can use it for her benefit because in the story she doesn't like peas and she doesn't want her peas. So they're sitting at the table and dad is saying, eat your peas, they're good for you. And she decides to remember something that her mom told her earlier. It was an excuse for why PJ wants everything she has. So she's like, Well, Lucy, he just wants to spend time with you. That's why he wants what you got, because you get spending so much time and attention with that little bear. When he's jealous of it, he wants to spend time with you. So he wants your bear because you love it so much. And she's not buying that, right? But she decides to use that when she doesn't want her peas at later on at dinner time. And she says, she says, "Oh, Lucy," she said, "PJ, these are my peas, not yours." And it works. He wants it.
He digs
He
in.
goes and he eats them all up. And she's sitting there like with this big grin on her face, like, not so bad having a little brother after all.
Okay. So each of your books has a lesson.
Absolutely. The lesson is different in every single story. And I went back to the new baby because I decided, where did Lucy and PJ start? Lucy's 5, so I went back to when she had no PJ little brother, and the first day he was brought home.
Okay.
And I decided to do that one because it actually starts when the parents get pregnant. If you have a child already, you're not realizing that there's a way to engage that child before that new baby is even born, where they're not jealous, where they're not feeling resentful and feeling left out.
And feeling excited that they're having another.
We
Yeah.
want them to, right? We want them to feel excited. We want them to look forward to this new baby and not thinking that this person is going to take their place.
Right. Are these books required reading in your preschools?
It should be, right? But actually, I buy all the books that we buy and place in the classrooms are for the children to grab on their own, and they're full of illustrations and pictures. The good thing is with my book is that every book is going to feature the same 2 kids, PJ and Lucy. So they'll build that connection with them and wanting to see what they did next.
Are you reading them to the kids in your classes?
Actually, I am not the one reading them. I actually give them to every classroom and tell the teachers to read it. Yes, to help them in this particular case, it's mine, not yours. It helps with teaching them sharing. So they use that story to help share with the other children in the classroom. So every classroom has the book. But not only that, I promote it by going to a lot of our local child care centers and giving them the books. One daycare center ordered 43. She didn't just want it for her classroom, she wanted it for every parent.
That's great.
Yeah, I loved it.
Well, not only that, that's good for our listeners to know. You know, the one thing people always say is like, how do I get my book out there? And, there's all kinds of ways to get your books out there. And a lot
Right.
depends on where you are in your life, what you do for a living. In your case, you're known, you
Yes.
own 2 preschools and everybody knows that. So it's a little bit easier for you than the mom who writes a book.
Absolutely. And I couldn't promote if I didn't own it. I'm sorry. I have the time and freedom to travel too and go to other places throughout the day. And I'm scheduled in New York later this summer and then Atlanta and that book festival. So I have the time and space to do it because my daycares run themselves.
That's great. That gives hope, I think, to our listeners. I don't think we can emphasize enough the importance. Yes, the publisher does stuff, but you got to get behind your book.
You're right. I honestly had to do that. The publisher did not do that, but they've been great. They actually gave me this list of all these book fairs, and so I've been just reaching out. But we do have to do the work.
And you think it's worth it to follow up with that.
Oh, absolutely. It's worth it because that's where you're seen. And my book is very new. It just came out in February. So that one place where I've sold 43 was just one place. And so I actually went and did the book signing. Those children and their families were lined up to meet me because they had the book before I even came. I thought it was just awesome. And those kids, to see their faces light up and say, "Did you write this book?" And then the mom's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "I sure did." And they're like, "Oh, wow." So I write their names to the, not the parents, it's to the child. And they really love that. It's a connection. You got to get out and connect.
Great advice. Ellise Boyd-Johnson, author of It's Mine, Not Yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alice. I appreciate you for having me.
Ross F. Hoffman is a very active guy. He played baseball at UCLA and for the Montreal Expos before he founded a private wealth management fund. He has remained in excellent physical condition his entire life, and it paid off when he was injured and wound up writing Back and Better, 37 rapid recovery exercises I use when injured or bedridden. Ross, what happened?
At age 71, my family and I have my 3 children and 8 grandchildren. We went to Catalina Island, and I swam over to be with my oldest son, who was near a water obstacle course. And he said, "Dad, this guy's been trying to cross these pontoons on this obstacle course for 40 minutes. He said, I know you can do this, and you're a lot older than he is." So anyway, I got on the obstacle course, and part of the obstacle issue of it is it's very slippery. The surface is incredibly slippery. So I negotiated the course to where the pontoons are, and there are 5 or 6 pontoons that you have to cross to get to the other side. And I finished the obstacle course, and I was going to get off. And just as I was going to leave the course, my feet slipped out from under me, and I reached over with my right arm to grab a volcano because I'm relatively strong, and my shoulder went pop.
Oh.
And I go, oh my gosh, I've either injured myself or I've adjusted my shoulder, one or the other. So I had very little mobility getting out of the water. And as a result, I finally did swim to the side. And even though I was injured, I didn't know how badly. So for the next 2 days, I played golf, and I did learn something about golf. I'm left-handed, and my right shoulder was the one that was injured. So if I would keep my right arm down when I swing, it made a huge difference. I had to call my orthopedic surgeon, and he said, well, take some ibuprofen and come see me when you get back. He said, you don't have to leave your vacation now. He said, but that'll keep the swelling down. So I didn't really know how injured I was. So I continued my exercise program. I walk around, and I walked down a steep hill, and I was on some loose shale, and finally realized that, oh, I shouldn't be on this. And so my feet started slipping out from under me, and I reached down with my right arm, which was my injured arm, and I didn't know how badly injured it was. And it rotated right out of the socket with my elbow straight up in the air and my fingers hanging down. And I go, oh my gosh, I am really hurt. I didn't know how injured I was. So I looked to my right and my left, and I found this concrete embankment to my left. So I turned around with my back towards the mountainside, and I scooched over to the concrete embankment, and I grabbed it with my fingers because my hand was hanging down and my elbow up, and then I jerked my shoulder back into its socket.
Were you screaming in pain?
No. I think I was probably in shock, so I didn't have a lot. I mean, it was painful, but not that much. I didn't experience that much pain, but I can tolerate pain. So anyway, I got off the mountain, and when I got back to my city after my vacation, I went to the doctor, and he said, after the x-ray, he said, oh my gosh, he said, you broke your shoulder socket. He says, you're going into surgery immediately. So I finished surgery at about 12:30 at night. Next morning, I woke up about 6 o'clock, and they're not serving breakfast at 6. So I get out of bed and I walk around. The nurses wouldn't let me go downstairs. So I started to exercise or do some exercises that I thought you could do in bed. And I did my feet, lower leg, and then my thighs and the back of my legs, and started, up my body. And I came up with about, maybe 12, 13 different exercises. And about 10:30, my doctor came in and he said, what are you doing? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, the nurses said you've walked around this place about 5 or 6 times. And now I come in here and you don't have the television on. I said, well, I think I'm writing a book. I've come up with about, 12, 13, maybe 14 exercises that you can do in bed. And he said, you're not like any of my other patients. They're usually lying here in bed watching television. He said, you're just very different. And I said, well, if I write a book, would you want to write it with me? And he said, no, I can't write it with you, but if you write it, I'll endorse it. And darned if he didn't endorse my book.
You're at a certain level of fitness, right? You're at a level of fitness that probably most people your age are not. So did you have to do any kind of disclaimer, like if you've never worked out before and you wind up in the hospital, can you do these exercises? Can anybody in any shape do these exercises?
Well, I think these are exercises that worked for me, and that's how I stated in the book.
Okay.
And I also say you can check with your healthcare providers. It's all disclosed, all disclaimered. Please check with your healthcare provider to see if these exercises are appropriate for you. So yes, the disclaimers are in the book, and you're absolutely right. It may not work for everybody, but it worked for me. And my orthopedic surgeon said, you realize that this could be the missing piece between surgery and then waiting for physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a firm believer that even though he said, don't move my right arm, that he didn't say, don't move the rest of my body.
Right.
And if you're exercising the rest of your body or those parts that you can exercise, and these are not aggressive exercises. Can you imagine lying in bed and you're just expanding your toes 5 or 6, maybe 10 times, and then just turning your ankle down so that you work your calf, and then up and working the top part of your leg or your calf area. And see, they're really easy exercises because you can't be aggressive. But I'm a believer that if you are doing anything to use your muscles, your blood is flowing better, and it will be flowing into the area that is injured as well, and helping you heal faster. And I actually proved this to myself because the physical therapist told me, he said, you healed faster than my other patients. He said, what do you do? And I said, well, I've come up with some exercises that you can do in bed that help with blood flow and circulation. And I think that might help, with my recovery, or might have helped with my recovery. So anyway, that's what I believe to be true. And that way I feel like I'm actively doing something, so I didn't get depressed, because you can get very depressed with injuries, especially if you want to go out and do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want atrophy to set in because you're not using your muscles. So I just avoided using my right arm because that was healing. But that didn't mean to me that I couldn't exercise other parts.
Okay, so this book is for anyone in any kind of shape.
These are exercises for people that just don't know what to do. In fact, my mom had Alzheimer's. And if I had had a book like this to use with her, if I had had this book, I could have done maybe 1 or 2 or maybe 10 exercises with her, and then increase it the next time I was there.
So Back and Better, 37 rapid recovery exercises. Give me an example.
Okay, so let's assume you're lying in bed. Because now you can't sit up and stand up and do the exercises. I'm talking about someone that is bedridden or injured for a period of time where they're just unable to do so. So if you can imagine, just take your foot and put it out in front of you and open your toes. And then close your toes. And some people might get a little cramp when they do that. Anytime you're flexing your toes, circulation is occurring. That's the extent of it. And if they can only move their toes a little bit, they can still move their toes. I had a 95-year-old man whose daughter gave him a copy of my book. He and I had an opportunity to speak after he had used my book for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. And his name is Roy, and he did a testimonial for me, but he said he had cramps every single night to the extent he could not sleep because his cramps were so bad. After using my book for 1 week, he said his cramps were gone and he could sleep so much better than he had slept for, a long time. And he's 95 and he's still playing golf. He invited me to play golf with him at Bel Air Country Club.
Wow.
Can you imagine that? He's 95 and I'm playing with this gentleman.
That's awesome.
Well, here's one of the comments I make to people. If you don't, you can't.
Oh, I love that. That is so true. Ross F. Hoffman, author of Back and Better, 37 Rapid Recovery Exercises I Use When Injured or Bedridden. Thanks so much.
Oh, you're welcome, Ellise. A pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
Michael J. Kalous is a counselor who is uniquely qualified to help people going through trauma, having experienced more than his fair share. He's written a lot of articles, but Wisdom from the Wreckage is his first published book. Michael, you went back to your hometown to help others.
So, because I came back to Intermountain as a counselor, where I had been as a kid, working with kids who were very much like me and my brothers, development adopted me to go around and talk at different churches and different organizations and functions, doing fundraising and fundraising. So I got to do a lot of talking. Those who know me and know my history thought I should write a book because the life I survived is a miracle. My 3 brothers did not survive.
What happened?
They were homeless and addicted. None of them graduated high school. None went to college. None had a steady job. None had a steady family. They just didn't have a life. And now they've all passed away from complications with their health.
I'm so sorry. What kind of life did you have?
Well, the first title I thought about the book was An Unbelievable Life, A Story of Hope. Because my mom and dad separated and divorced when I was in 2nd grade. So Kenny and David was in 3rd grade, and Larry would have been like in kindergarten, that age. But they both moved to different places, and Dad married 5 times, and Mom married 4 times, and they were always moving, and we were always moving, and we lived in over 80 different places before I graduated high school. 101 different addresses. I sat down and counted them all out.
Oh my gosh.
Places like the Chocolate House, the Yellow House, the Green House, the bottom of Schoolhouse Hill, Barnes Place. I mean, and we stayed with strangers and friends and relatives. We just shuffled back and forth. My dad was a very, very angry, rageful alcoholic, and he tried to kill us at least twice that I can remember.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it was a very terrible life. Yeah. It is a true story about my life, basically, how God brought me through. See, when I was 5 years old, I remember walking into the Wolf Creek Elementary School on Sunday because Mr. and Mrs. Garner, the principal and 1st grade teacher, had Sunday school on Sundays. And so I remember walking in on a Sunday morning, and there was a flannel graph that Mrs. Garner was doing about the prodigal son. And on that Sunday morning, I traded my dad for my heavenly Father. And then life got really bad after that. But I had God, so it brought me through. I survived all kinds of abuse, abandonment, neglect, I mean, everything. And my brothers did not.
Were you able to marry, have children? Were you able to have a normal life?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I'd call it normal.
Are any of us normal? I mean,
I don't-
really? I mean,
Yeah, I graduated high school. I joined the Navy. Oh, that's interesting. I got a driver's license, a social security number, and I entered the Navy all without a birth certificate.
how?
Well, I was born in a car outside of Wisdom, Montana, and my folks didn't make it to the hospital in Butte. And when I was born, they just turned around and went back to the ranch outside Wisdom.
Oh my gosh! And they just delivered you, cut the cord, cleaned it up,
Yeah.
and said, "Okay,
Yeah.
you're on your own."
Yeah, well, they picked up a nurse who lived out there by Wisdom, and then on the way there, when I was cold and shivering, but I made it, and I landed on Fish Trap Bridge. So
Oh my gosh!
yeah, so I was married, and the story's in there. I married, so I was in a band. I won a really big contest for singing in Reno when I was working there. But I knew myself at that time. I did not trust myself to withstand temptation, because I know what happened to my brothers and my dad, and this was a big thing that I won. They were going to put me in the band. It was going to be a tour and all that stuff, and I ran basically. I just knew I wouldn't be able to withstand it, so I went up to Washington. I joined a band. They liked my singing. They couldn't find a bass player, so they said, "Okay, we can't find a bass player, so here's a bass. You've got 2 weeks to learn these 40 songs."
Oh
And
geez!
thank goodness they were country songs with 3 chords. I played my first gig with my fingers all taped up. But yeah, but I'm a really good singer apparently. So um, anyway, so one of the girls that was a groupie who followed us around, Linda, a very beautiful green-eyed girl, we became friends and lovers and got married, and then when my first child was coming along, I knew I needed a better job. So I plastered the entire area where I lived at that time with resumes, and I landed a job at Keyport, which is the Naval Undersea Warfare Engineering Station, as a warehouseman, because that's kind of what I did on the ship in the Navy. And so then I was there for 11 years before I was in a head-on collision and almost died. I shouldn't even be alive. That's a miracle too. I mean, there's so many stories interwoven. I mean, my dad, you would think that I would hate my dad and be bitter and angry, but God wouldn't allow me to do that. I always tried to reconcile and find peace. And he lived homeless himself outside of Kuski, Idaho, in a little camp trailer. And he fell twice with 2 different aneurysms. The second one landed him in the Veterans Hospital in Seattle. And I lived in Bremerton, right across the Sound. And so I believe that God arranged that for me to take care of him while he needed to go to the VA hospital because he could take the ferry over. So I took care of him for about 6 months. And then when he could walk again and find found at the bar, because he was an alcoholic, and the friend said, "Why don't you bring your trailer over here and live with me?" Because there's another side of Dad that a lot of people didn't know. And so on the way back with that trailer, the kids outside of Yakima, Washington, they play a game. They make it a live video game. They get onto a freeway at night with no lights and dodge oncoming traffic.
Nice, great. That's
Yeah.
just great.
Well, they missed and hit me. I was a passenger in the truck, and they hit me. They were killed instantly. The car became a part of the grill of our truck. Bill, my driver, he was 71. He was a mentor of mine at our church. We were both wearing seat belts. We were going 53.5 because he said his cruise control, because we were hauling a 21-foot camp trailer. He went through the windshield, over the steering wheel, cracked his sternum on the steering wheel, through the windshield. His cowboy hat turned inside out in the engine compartment. He was wandering around in the dark looking for his wife, Cookie, who was not with us. And we both had our seatbelts on. I was crammed under the dash because I had been sitting with my right leg straight out as we were looking at headlights across the freeway. That's when they first came out with the halogen lights. We're talking about the difference of that, and that's all I remember. That's the last thing I remember. And then they couldn't get me. They could, because I had no idea what happened. I didn't know there was a car that hit us. I had no idea. So I was a wild man thrashing around in the hospital. It took him over a half an hour to cut me out and get me into the ambulance, and then went to the hospital in Yakima. They couldn't get me stabilized to give me any drugs or anything because I was just a wild man. I mean, you can imagine I had no idea what happened. So I was just like, what in the world, just thrashing around. And another miracle, my mom made it from Port Orchard, Washington to Yakima in less than 3 hours.
Jeez.
Which is a miracle. And I didn't know what going, but when she walked in and she said, Michael, there was something that I could hold on to.
Michael, the basic message of your book is God got you through all of this. When you're counseling kids, is that your message?
Yeah. Well, the kids I work with at Intermountain was it's a residential treatment center for severely emotionally disturbed children. I worked there for 17 years as a counselor with kids who had horrible lives, just like we did. So I could look in their eyes and they could see in mine connection. They could see honesty that I really did understand. But it's also interwoven with, because I don't work with kids now. I work with adults. I specialize in relationships and communication. That's my specialty. So in the second part of the book, the last part, it's part 2, I call it Wisdom from the Wreckage, because I learned so much with all the places I lived and the different relationships I had to move through, that I created a lot of concepts that people can understand in communication and how to, work through relationships. So that's part 2. Yeah.
So, I mean, are you out promoting this book?
Oh, yeah. Yep. I've already had 1 book signing. I've got 2 book signings in Butte. I've created a website through Tertulia. I'm on Instagram, and I am a writer. So I post things on Instagram and on Facebook. So, and I get my name out there.
Would you say that's key, is keeping those posts going and talking about your book and talking about the things you've gone through? Because I mean, part of this podcast is helping people, realize how important it is to get behind your book.
Right. Well, here's the thing too. Even though that my book is very much about how God brought me through, I am a Christian and a Christian counselor, but I understand that people need something to hang on to. I don't care what it is. Truth is truth, no matter where you find it. And people can find hope in anything if they just look for it. They have to have the reason to look beyond what they're in and find hope. And that's kind of what this story is really all about. There's hope. No matter what you're going through, no matter what you're surviving or have survived, there's always hope. You can make it through. All you have to do is know yourself, because we sin or do not sin, we do or do not do through our identity. It is through our identity that we live and move and create our story. I mean, if we think we're a bad person, a bad kid, I'm a bad child, nobody likes me, nobody wants me, I'm unlovable, whatever, and you approach people like that, people don't want to hurt you, so they take a step back, and that just affirms your own belief about yourself, right?
Right.
But if you can believe in yourself and you can believe that you are a good person, that you do love and want love and can give love, then you step forward with confidence and people move toward you because of that. That affirms who you are in that identity. Good gathers good. Evil compounds evil. Or you could say negative compounds negative. You can say that. So that's the kind of stuff I talk about in my book.
You are a real survivor, Michael. Michael J. Kalous, author of Wisdom from the Wreckage. Thanks so much for talking to me today.
Thank you. God bless. Bye.
A high school history teacher, Christopher Fultz, has written a book of historical fiction set near Cumberland Gap, where Tennessee, Kentucky, and Virginia meet. It is entitled Forest Shadows, a frontier spy novel. Tell us how this book came about.
Well, that's kind of a curious story. I was sitting in an in-service, I'd say probably 10, 15 years ago, and started a to-do list. So I work also at a history site, Martin Station, which is where my book is set, and it's inside Wilderness Road State Park, just over the line in Virginia. And that is completely recreated 1775 civilian fort station. And I'm the blacksmith there and wear a few other hats too. and I was doing a to-do list for things because I needed some things to, pass the time, because I was in this really terrible professional development. And I'd always thought that was a good spot for a story. There was just a lot of rich ground there, and I began to write just for my own passage of time. And just every now and then I would pick it up. Every now and then I would add to it or edit it, change it, something. And then my daughter, who just recently graduated back almost this time last year, maybe a little earlier, she found it by accident. I left something laying out on my desk, and she said, "Hey, what's this?" And I said, I downplayed it. And I said, it's really nothing. Don't worry about it. And she's like, "No, Dad, you need to publish this. This is good." And I thought, well, what the heck? Worst thing they can do is tell me no. And I sent it around, and the rest is history, as we say.
Wow. So what's it about?
Well, my main character is what was known as a frontier scout. And what their job was to do was to go out in ones and twos and just scout through the country. And when you go out and go through an area looking at what's going on and reporting back, that's called spying. So they were known as scout spies. So the word spy today is an espionage term, but then it was just a military tactical term of going through the country, surveying, see what's going on. You're more or less looking and reporting back than you are actually acting, but some of them went ahead and took action when they needed to. And it ties in with the actual history of how Captain Joseph Martin came through, and Judge Richard Henderson had plans to sell Kentucky to create either the 14th colony or the 14th state. Whichever won the war, whether it be king or Congress, he was going to go to them and say, "Hey, look what I did. Now make me governor of it." Only in my scenario, other colonies would not have been happy about that, especially North Carolina, which would be the next closest. So I have some intrigue set up that way, and then some private intrigue with individuals who were constantly trying to sort of create their own future mini kingdoms here on land that seemed to belong to no one. So there's all that tied up at once in there, and not everybody knows the reality of this man who seems to just be the journeyman blacksmith, and the sports scout is actually working for much bigger people on much bigger things.
Okay. Now, Joseph Martin was a real person during the Revolutionary War, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It's really the story of the real settlement of the West. There's a lot there that a diehard purist might say, well, you can't document this, you can't document that. But what I tried to do as well is get really procedural. Like a good example, some books would say, they stopped and started a fire to cook over. I actually go through the process of how that fire got started.
Okay.
I talk about, my guy working in the forge and the procedural stuff of heating a piece of metal to the right temperature to work and that sort of thing and I don't think that drags the story out either. It's just, those are things you don't normally get. And
Right.
I've had some good return comments on that. Like, "Hey, I really like how you did that," and that sort of thing. I think that just adds to it.
Yeah, I agree.
So, there's some procedural things in there. There's real history in there. There's, I think, some solid fiction that fleshes out the situation. Because like I said, I've been doing that for 23 years. And I said, for the very first year, I asked one of the older hands, I said, "Has anybody ever written a book, a story, anything about this situation?" And everybody's like, "Well, it's reported in this and reported in that," is just what little they know. I said, no, an actual story, telling the story through historical fiction. They're like, "No, definitely not." And I've always thought that interesting, because we live in this area of just really thickly layered history, and nobody's really done a lot with it other than just cold, hard fact. And that just amazes me. So I'm, I guess, breaking the ice. I leave it as a cliffhanger. When I started to knock it together to make it a sort of a publishable thing, I thought, I need to just cut this thing off and not let them know what happened, so that people are like, okay, now I got to know. And and I've had several people message me and say, okay, I got to know, when's the next book coming out.
That's great. I would think with America's 250th being celebrated, are you able to drum up some interest?
Yeah, I'm hoping to do. I've got a couple of events lined up over the next 2 months that are in the region. So Morristown, Tennessee is about an hour away, and that's one of the really big locations for Davy Crockett. The family owned a tavern there, and that's future as far as my character's concerned. That's a little in the future, but they're having an event, and I'm going to go over. I do historical material culture, so I'm knife maker, axe maker, powder horn maker. So I'm going to go over and do some demonstrating, and I'll have my book for sale there. And there's a little historic town, Cumberland Gap, nearby. They usually have some events in the summer that I'm going to try to get down there for one of those and set up.
When you go out to these places, do you have a social media presence? Do you have a Facebook page?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so are you talking about your book on the Facebook page?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's got its own separate page, plus my page I share back and forth. And a lot of people liking stuff and a lot of people sharing stuff.
Okay.
My goal is to get people to show up at the park because they read my book and want to see and know more. So
there you go. Christopher Fultz.
Yep.
Author of Forest Shadows, a frontier spy novel. Thank you so much.
No problem. I appreciate you calling and taking the time.
For Shawn Martin, book ideas come to him. He started writing 8 years ago and published The Teacher. Now he's back with Echoes of War and Distant Thunder, Gathering Clouds on the Horizon, book 1 of 3. It's like you're a magnet for book ideas.
Well, my first book, The Teacher, I was there at work one night. I was doing the Destruct at that time, and I was x-raying some parts, and first line of the book went through my head, and it's like, where in the world that come from? And it rattled around in there for about 4 years and kept adding more dialogue, and we was going to get laid off for a week, and I was telling my dad and my son, it's like, I think I've got a story trying to come out. They're like, go for it. So I came home, started writing. That was The Teacher. That was my first book. Echoes is my second book. But COVID killed most of my plans for it.
Oh.
So I'm trying to get interest back into the first book with Echoes.
Tell me about it.
We start off with mankind finishing Reconstruction after World War III.
Oh, great.
It's taken them 100 years, and they decide all the governments are all working together because they all had to come together to fight the war. And as they're nearing the end of Reconstruction, they're like, hey, we got a colony on the moon, we got a colony on Mars, why don't we go set one up in Europa? We're almost done with Reconstruction, give us something else to look forward to, spread out a little more. So they begin building the Ascension, which is going to go to Europa to set up a colony. And on their way there, they hit a wormhole, which take them to the other side of the galaxy, where they get lucky, find them a habitable planet, and they set up there. Only thing they don't know, they're not the only species on the planet. We have a group called the Septoids, which once they put their armor or activate their armor and put it on, essentially look like a 6-foot tall centipede.
Oh, jeez.
And then we have things go on there, and then we come up, they've got a natural disaster that's going to destroy the planet. And they have, over this 500-year span, they managed to break the DNA code, and it's like, hey, we can create hybrids, which would give our both species, a chance to really thrive in a harsh environment if they need to restart. So they start putting together pods and building ships to evacuate the planet. They launch 1 million pods. It's got human babies, it's got septoid babies, and it's got a bunch of hybrids too. They get launched out in specially made pods. It's got a stasis field, and they all have a helmet on their head, which teaches them the history of both civilizations and teaches them, math, science, all that. So that they find a planet that they can inhabit. They can just pop out of their pods and get going. Of course, they also have a growth serum in these pods that will have them grow up to like their early 20s. But once the disaster hits, one of the pods gets knocked out of its formation, it hits another wormhole, and it comes back through it, and its sensors pick up transmissions coming from a planet, locks onto it. Turns out it's Earth in 1987.
1987?
Yeah. So not only are we in the future, we come back to the past. Hope's pod, she's a hybrid, lands in, I made up a little town called Mud Run, which is, I've got located just south of my hometown here, a few miles. It crashes into a pond where the septoids, they have an ability. They can skin somebody, put skin on, activate a scanner on their armor, and they can become that person. And they can also suck out the brain and get their memories and their skills. So once Hope crashes, a girl that owns the farm there gets her out of the pond, because they have a directive that if they land somewhere that is already inhabited by another species, try to blend in.
Okay.
Well, like I said, Hope's a hybrid. Her top half is human and woman. Her from the waist down, though, she's septoid. She's got 8 legs.
Oh my gosh. I guess she's wearing long skirts.
So, well, what she does is like, I could use this woman. So she takes Beth's skin, sucks her brain out, and she becomes Beth.
She becomes the woman who found her.
Yeah.
Okay. But a special military unit and the FBI are looking for her. How do they know that she's here?
Okay, well, as Hope's pod is coming in, we have a shuttle up. And one of the astronauts keeps dreaming of going to the moon. And he's up there working on a satellite. And he's looking at the moon, and he happens to catch the sun glint off something. And he hollers at the shuttle commander. He's like, "Hey, do you see that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I do. What is that?" He's like, "No idea, because it's just the sun's starting to kind of wink off of it at the time." So as the pod, they continue their orbits, and the pod gets closer, they realize, hey, this is something. And they're up there taking video, taking pictures of it. Well, they let Houston know. Houston picks it up on their radar. Yeah, we got it. What is it? We don't know. But as it hits the atmosphere, NORAD picks it up. Of course, they had kept NORAD out of the loop. And one of our main characters there, Justin, who is based after one of my very good friends, he picks up the phone, calls Washington to let them know that this thing's coming in. And then next time we see Justin, he's in a Tomcat being flown across the country to Washington. And they slide him a report, and it shows him a picture of the pod that the shuttle took. Because now he's mad. He's like, "Wait a minute, that's why NORAD's even here. Why weren't we informed?" And they're like, "Well, you didn't need to know. And we told NASA not to tell you."
Oh boy.
Now you need to know. So what this group has been made for exactly this, tracking down like alien ships that's crashed and satellites that's gone down, stuff like that. Okay, so Justin becomes their new commander. Their old one had just retired. This is an entire team that's been specially trained to go out and find alien spaceships, like I said, satellites, stuff like that.
Okay.
The FBI team is a very severe nod to the X-Files.
Okay.
By the end of the book, we have things going on. Our FBI team is missing time, and weird things are going on.
Okay.
And they're getting ready to start doing tests.
Okay.
And there is a preview for book 2, in which Team 5 of this group, out on their search, find something they just don't know what it is.
Okay.
And that'll go into book 2.
Okay. How are you telling people about this?
Okay, well, we're doing book signings. We've done
Who's we?
me and my son. My son helps me with the book signings. Barnes and Noble. We done a local festival up here. We talked to a whole bunch of people there.
Okay.
Libraries. Got some more coming up. It's some other bookstores, and Barnes and Noble's wanting us back. The library's wanting us back.
So you're really getting behind your book.
We're definitely trying to.
Okay. Okay. That's probably the most important thing you can do.
But where I really, really want to take it, they have a big sci-fi convention up in Lexington every year in March called Lexicon. It's got over 20,000 people that hit it every year. That's where we're wanting to go.
Is that like Comic-Con?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like just the place. All right, so we've got books 2 and 3 coming out, so you're going to be busy for a while.
Oh, yeah.
All right. You are Shawn Martin, author of Echoes of War and Distant Thunder, Gathering Clouds on the Horizon, book 1 of 3. Thanks so much for talking to me today.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Karen Zacharias probably wouldn't be here talking to us right now if it wasn't for a furball named Lacey. The name of her book, The Lacey Chronicles, book 1.
So what inspired me was my dog Lacey. So she is we got her November of 24. So she'll be 2 this year. So we got her, and she just has a lot of quirky, but she's a quirky personality, let's put it that way. And we found out when she was pretty young that she has a pretty serious heart condition. So that, that could potentially shorten her lifespan by a lot. And we rescued her. So she just kind of brings us gifts, if you will. She's like a big little scavenger hunter. And she'll bring us all kinds of things. And she's so proud of the things that she finds. And I'm like, I need to start documenting this and write about her personality and the things that she does and the adventures she goes on. So,
okay. So how do you lay out her story?
So I lay it out by just how we got her at the beginning. My daughter was driving on a highway and happened to pass a Walmart and saw somebody giving puppies away out of the back of a car. And my daughter got her for me.
Little baby pit bulls.
Yes, out of the back of a car. There were only 2 of them, and she got the female for me. So that's how Lacey came to live with us. And then, she just, I just kind of chronicalized her lifespan as she's growing and meeting her new house. And she met Big Brother Mike, who is a beagle. And they're still learning to get along, but she's a puppy growing up and learning new tricks and getting to go to the vet for the first time for shots. And then from there, it goes to, she has to go for an ultrasound on her heart to see exactly what type of heart condition she has. And it's not curable. So, she has to be careful. She tires easy, and she has to not do as much running as she likes to do. But then, she'll go exploring all over our property and find me treasures to bring home. The very first thing she ever brought was an unopened can of beer. So wherever she found that, I don't know. The first book is really just her puppy stage and all the tricks she's learning and the different things she brings home. And now she's learning to get along with Mike and settling in with her new family and how lovable she is. So it kind of was left as a cliffhanger because there are more books that I've written about her. So it kind of will follow her lifespan. Then I have a just to be continued, not really a cliffhanger as far as something dramatic happens at the end of the first book, just leaving it with to be continued to follow her life. Now, book 2 is going to be a little more on her adventures with Mike and how they get lost one day and how that was very traumatic for both of them.
So how are kids receiving this book?
The kids are receiving it amazingly well. Like I've gotten a lot of responses from, word of mouth and everything gets around, and I have a big family and lots of friends and people that live in different states. So it's out there and I'm getting good feedback how the kids love it and they want to know what happens next. And, it's being really well received.
Are you doing anything to promote it?
Oh, yeah. I'm all over Facebook and Instagram, just sharing little clips of Lacey and pictures and showcasing the book. I have an event coming up. Our local fairgrounds is having a 250th celebration of the United States, the birthday of the U.S., and I'm going to have a booth there to set up with autographs and selling my book and pictures, with Lacey's pictures. I'm going to be there in full force with books to sell and autographs to write.
That's great. So when you post these pictures, I bet they get a lot of hits.
They do. And it seems like they're also getting out there into Facebook land with different authors, and it is, it's getting out there.
Good.
I did contact our local school district and donated a book to their library at the elementary school. And I have a lot of teacher friends that, with it being towards the end of the year, it's hard to get in there right now to read to classes. But, the beginning of next year's school year, we're definitely going to be doing that.
That's a great way to go. Well, it sounds like
Yes.
You're on your way. It really does.
Hopefully.
All right. You are Karen Zacharias, author of The Lacey Chronicles, Book 1. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and you have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Ellise Boyd-Johnson. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.